In the last episode, you heard from John Roman, the CEO of the BattleBox Group, a $30 million e-commerce subscription portfolio. Today, on episode number 35, get ready. Diego Camejo is the founder and CEO of She's Wasted, a premium shapewear and activewear brand that's grown a ton in the past couple of years. We'll be discussing today how to use UGC at scale and some content strategies for meta ads too. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of Splitbase. This is Minds of Ecommerce. Now, for our sponsorship message, well, at Splitbase, my company, we help leading direct-to-consumer brands such as Dr. Squatch, High Price, and Amica A/B test, design, build, and manage high-converting landing pages and on-site experiences. We generate a combined $100 million in additional revenue for our clients every single year. Our optimization programs pinpoints exactly where your store is losing money most, and then we help you fix it. The result? Well, increased conversions, AOV, and of course, improved marketing efficiency. If you want to scale your e-commerce brand profitably, we're the ones to call. So go ahead, go on splitbase.com today and learn how you can get the most out of your marketing spend by requesting a proposal today. All right, Diego, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Raphael, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited because, this podcast is all about going deep and dissecting one or two growth strategies so our listeners can get the most value right away. And obviously, there's a ton we could talk about. You've been, running a very successful shapewear and activewear brand, and you are also a former filmmaker, right? And with
Yes,
that
that's right.
background, obviously, you're a great person to talk about UGC. So before we actually talk about that, just to give the listeners a bit more context, for how long have you been working on She's Wasted?
Now it's been 5 years.
5 years already. And
Yeah.
what are maybe some of the highlights that you could share about She's Wasted, some of the things that you're proud of?
Yeah, I mean, we've been able to consistently grow every year. Basically, the first 4 years, we doubled revenue every year, which is amazing.
Amazing.
And just being able to kind of think outside the box with content and take what I would normally like to do, which is produce kind of super high-end content, and take a step back and listen to the customer and figure out what is it they actually want. Be able to kind of remove that ego from the equation. And that's been what's allowed us to have a lot of success and growth.
I love that. So now let's actually dive in, because I want to make sure everybody's get the chance to learn about what you've learned around content strategies and UGC. So tell us more, like, when it comes to UGC, what are some of the things that have been successful for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I kind of want to frame the conversation in like this story of when I started the business. Because when I first started, I came as a filmmaker, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to produce everything. I'm going to have like a huge leg up on the competition because I can produce these really high quality videos. I have all the gear, all the camera equipment, the lighting. And so I did just that. The company was successful initially. We started off and we were profitable basically since the first week. And then things started not going so well, and we were producing content. What's going on? And to a point where we almost thought I almost thought the business was not going to be viable. We're not going to be able to make it through this. And I was like, what do I do? So I started looking at our reviews and what are our customers saying? Is it the product? What's going on? And then I saw a customer posted a video of her using one of our products. And I was like, hey, can I use this as an ad? And it was like the lowest quality, like video. It's like not professional at all. Just like someone talking on camera. I put it on Meta Ads. This was in 2018 or 2019. And immediately that ad just took off. Like went crazy, better than anything we had ever produced, all the effort, time, and energy editing. And that
Amazing.
like one ad kind of like almost doubled the business. So that kind of changed the strategy completely to, okay, we have to have like real creators and a lot of people talking about this in a way that's very native to the platform and, that's personable. So yeah, that's kind of like how this all started. And then from there, it's really just what's worked is really working with creators on a deeper level and understanding kind of like laying out, whichever product you're promoting or trying to advertise is really what are the desires, what are like the different things that might hook somebody in. So
Mm,
really working with hooks is like been huge as of late. So the first 3 seconds are everything in an ad. Of course, we've seen ads where our creator sends us a video, we re-edit it and have them change the first 3 seconds, and it goes from a losing ad to being one of our top performing
mm.
ads.
All
So
because of
it's
the hook.
unbelievable. Yeah, for the first 3 seconds, just changing the messaging. Sometimes it's not even
Mm,
the messaging, it's just what the creator's doing. It's like
right,
something, sometimes it's as simple as like they're putting the phone down and then they start talking. You know what I mean? Like
right.
something like that. Or you're really calling out like the specific solution, or you're agitating the problem that a customer might have, and then you're presenting the solution. But how you present that problem is very important, right? Whether it's visual, whether it's a transformation. So there's kind of a lot of ways that you can play with it.
Is there like a structure to that UGC content? It sounds like you guys, you know, are able to edit some of these videos, and you know what might perform better than others. And obviously, sometimes I'm sure you might be wrong, right? That's why
Yeah.
testing is so important. But obviously, opening with a hook or something that grabs the attention is kind of the first part. But then, is there kind of an order that you prefer for what comes next?
Yeah, so there's kind of a structure. It really depends on, I guess, the product, but you definitely want to structure things from a problem solution
Mm,
perspective. So the hook is basically presenting the problem, then you want to agitate it. So and then kind of show how alternatives may not solve that, or what alternatives you may have used. And then lastly, present your product, and then then you want to like then you want to start showing the different features, like why is this better than somebody else's product, what do we do different, um and then just kind of like lay it out, and then at the end you just do the call to action to actually go
mm,
purchase, or you present the offer. um it's interesting because a lot of it is just it's the end part of it is kind of straightforward. It's what most people do. They just present, this is what the product does, this is what we do, and that's all done well. But it's usually the hook that is where I think a lot of companies or people don't do that as much testing or a good job. Like we'll
mm.
literally test like 20 hooks, like on
Same
one
ad,
product, and
but different hooks.
yeah, literally, yeah. And
Love
it's
it.
crazy the difference.
It's interesting what you mentioned, right? Problem, agitate, solve when it comes to kind of the recipe for ads. I mean, that is like a very classic copywriting formula, right? The
Yeah.
PAS framework. And I mean, it's been proven it works. And I think sometimes people approach ads and try to reinvent the wheel. But those old school copywriting formulas that's been around forever are sometimes the solution to our modern day problems.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's true. At the core of it, it's actually very simple. It's very psychology driven. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think where it becomes challenging is understanding who your customer is, right? Like really having that insight, that data. How are they talking? What are their problems? So there's a lot more, I guess, research that you have to do, reading reviews, reading how people are responding to your ads on comments,
Mm,
and to understand who is buying this, and making sure that also the creator or whoever the model is in the ad is relating to people. Because that's also been something that we've one strategy that we've done a lot is like, we not only do we test hooks, but we are very aggressive in testing creators. So
mm.
we're not just finding one creator and testing 20 hooks. We're testing like hundreds of creators, because
Wow.
you would be surprised the perception of like a different creator or model can be massive in the implication of conversion. So
Right.
that's kind of what we do first. I guess the first thing is test a ton of creators, see who resonates the best with your audience or your product, and then later create a more deeper like relationship with them, and get into the weeds of actual structures in terms of how the ad is.
Got it. So I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're gonna, cast a very wide net of a lot of creators, just like you would with a bunch of different creatives. Then you'll narrow
Yeah.
down what works best. And then obviously the top creators, the ones that have the best ads, you're gonna keep reinvesting in them a bit more. And that's
Yes,
how you're gonna decide. You have like that 80-20 at the end of the day, correct?
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And do you only do creator content, or do you also do some of the studio stuff? And how do you balance that out?
Yeah, absolutely. So because in the past we had done the studio stuff and it didn't really quite work as well for us, we just did kind of influencer UGC style
Mm,
content where we had a creator shoot for us everything.
yep.
and we did that for several years, and we're able to scale that very successfully. It inherently it's sometimes it's challenging, because if you want to test a lot of different hooks quickly, not only does it get expensive, but it's hard to communicate with a creator to do that, and sometimes they don't understand what you're saying if you're not physically there. So now what we do is we do both, and we do build like, ads like in-house, but it's funny because I have all this production equipment, but I'm shooting on an iPhone.
Right.
Which feels so weird coming from like a filmmaker's background. But yeah, we're basically creating content that's scripted, that's an ad ourselves,
Right.
producing, and we have a team of people that work on it, but it looks like a UGC ad. But and though that's been very successful for us, because we've been able to take the testing of hook rates to like another level. So to give you an example, on average, like a good hook rate for us from like an influencer is like 30%, which is the first 30 seconds someone keeps watching it, right? For an ad produced in-house, we've been able to hit up to 60%, which has massive implications for ROAS. Click-through rates are much higher, so it really makes a big difference. So if you're not testing your hooks, like you're leaving money on the table for sure.
Right. And then I'm sure some people are listening here. Well, hey, if you're getting a hook rate that's double with your studio content, why are you so still bullish? Well, why are you so excited about UGC content? Right. Ultimately, is it just that they still perform better, or you manage to get some UGC ads that does perform more than 60%? How do you look at those ultimately?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. It really comes down to creative output. So when you're working, it's harder to scale. Like you need hundreds. I think a lot of people don't realize how much quantity of content you actually need to scale a brand. Like it's not just 5 good ads or 10 good ads. Yeah, that can get you somewhere, but especially for a brand like ours, we have, thousands of SKUs, hundreds of products. It's a lot more challenge. It's not just one product that we're scaling. So, and a lot of different types of people buy our products, different size ranges. So in order for us to advertise to the whole market, you need hundreds of creatives, and you need them to be refreshed every month. So we are getting hundreds of creatives a month. And what that allows us to do as well is, we're not going to be able to come up with every idea. And there's also that kind of trait of personality that a creator might be able to capture on their own that might not come across in even a produced thing. So there's a lot of that kind of like organic content. Even we have people that we just gift, or customers that just review a video, and it's just sometimes those perform better than all the thoughtful things that we do for an ad. So there's a place for both, because the way that media buying has changed now is that the creative is what creates the audience. So if you want to scale, it's no longer about lookalikes or retargeting or all these things. It's about having creatives that speak to each demographic, kind of like micro pockets. So like literally, if you have a creator that's a size large on your ad, most people that buy from that ad are going to be a size large. So if you want to have people buy, and it sounds very obvious, but like, you have to have someone that would be represented size small, XL, 3XL.
Yeah.
We have a huge size range. So just with that, different ethnicities, our shaper comes in many different colors for different skin tones. So that's where a lot of the diversity in creator is very important for us. So it's kind of different personas.
I'm actually curious, like, how do you manage all these creators? Because it sounds like, obviously, hey, if you're going to have to manage hundreds and you have to manage content for all these people, what's the trick?
Well, that's always a challenge. It's hard. It takes a lot of work, but we do have we have gifting programs through like TikTok, which helps. But we leverage tools like Grin, which are very, very useful as like a CRM just to manage everything. So that's kind of like our bread and butter is using Grin. And then also one platform that's actually been very helpful is called Incense. They're very good at sourcing UGC. So it's a quick, like if you just need a bunch of videos, content, you just post the campaign on there, you'll get a lot of people to apply. They make it very easy to connect you with creators. And a lot of this is like, the transition from like actual influencer engagements where you have them post and everything to like, we're just producing content that we're using as ads, right? So in a lot of ways you can get cheaper rates that way as well versus a post.
Amazing. Obviously, you've been experimenting with those for about 5 years. I know it's mostly on Meta platforms, right?
Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook. Is there anything else that you've discovered through Meta and Facebook that, has been very successful for you guys that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think this is just the trend or the shift in the industry. Whereas before, it was really much about campaign structure, having the right
Mhm.
audiences, lookalikes, retargeting, and now it's kind of just it's changed completely. Now it's just broad audience. The new ASA
Yep.
campaigns, where it's literally you can have just one campaign where you don't have bid caps, you just have just the budget. That's the only thing you can change. And I
Mhm.
think it's an incredible thing because it's almost like a meritocracy now in content because like it's a lot easier to have a piece that hits. You don't have to have all the knowledge of media buying. It's now media buying is now super easy. The hard part is the content. So now we actually focus on what matters. Is what is our message? How are we resonating with consumers? And how can we, broaden the actual reach of who we're reaching based on what the videos are saying or who's saying it.
That's such a good way to put it because I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. Now the Facebook algorithm and all of that, right, does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah,
And it's all about a content and numbers game at that point.
it is, I think it's a hard thing for a lot of media buyers because I was always in the nitty gritty figuring out campaigns, and it really used to work. But now we kind of
Right.
just have to put our faith to Zuckerberg and be like, hey, let the algorithm do its thing and trust the algorithm,
Yeah.
because it really does work. It's almost I would almost say like ad buying now is like it's almost like posting organically. You have to give
Mm.
an opportunity for the creative to work, right? You make sure that it's in a campaign that it can get some spend, and if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's kind of like posting on your page. Obviously, it's backed by budget, but that's kind of how it's working these days.
Totally. Now, Diego, you guys have been working on your strategy for the past 5 years. So obviously it's matured over time. But if you had to do something, if you were to start all over again and had to do one thing differently, what would that be?
That's a good question. I think I would have, um, well, first of all, I would have started using UGC content from the very beginning. But I think the biggest thing is really being organized and understand. Like one of the mistakes that I made at some point was, oh my God, UGC is working. I'm just going to get like hundreds of creators to create content for me. And then I went through a phase where none of the creatives like hit. And so I was
Mm.
spending all this money having creators produce content, and it wasn't that great. I was just almost like quantity over quality. There's a place for both. You have to be able to scale in a place where the creative is still, very high quality in terms of like the convergence, not necessarily in terms of production value. So what I would say is really first understand who your customer is and make a game plan as to what the script is for your product. I would kind of like um really kind of list out what are the desires of my customer, what are their problems, like really make an organized plan and then figure out how you can communicate that in maybe 5, 10 different ways and make sure that you like deliberately test that.
Mm. That's phenomenal advice. Now we're close to time, so obviously one
Wow.
thing that I love, I told you like this goes really
That
fast,
was quick.
but I'd love to know, right? Obviously, since you've been in the space for a while, what are brands, people, entrepreneurs that you look up to? Who are people that or brands that you think are doing things really well and that inspires you in what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Wow, that's a hard question. I don't know if I have a specific answer for you in terms of an individual or a brand, but I'm kind of always looking at what everyone's doing in the industry, whether it's competitors, big or small, in my space and in other spaces. And we're always kind of looking at ads, seeing we use this app called Foreplay, and we can like save
Yep,
ads and see kind of what's
it's a
working
great
and
tool.
yeah, it's a great tool. So I don't have necessarily someone specific in mind, but kind of just always ears open, looking at what's working, what's not working, and kind of finding ideas and inspiration and trying to implement it.
Awesome. Now, if people want to learn more about you, about She's Wasted, right, where should they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to our website, she'swasted.com. or our Instagram at She's Wasted. And by the way, it's spelled WAISTED.
I was gonna say it if you didn't say it.
And or our TikTok, She's Wasted Co. So that's where you can connect with us and see what we're up to. Yeah, we have lots of content being posted, and it's tons of fun giveaways and live streams going on. So yeah, come check us out.
Awesome. We've been talking to Diego Camejo, who's the CEO of She's Wasted. Phenomenal brand, obviously phenomenal entrepreneur, as I'm sure you've heard. Diego, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Raphael. Great talking.